So this character here on the anime character is from Attack on Titan. Her name is Gabi Braun, and she is one of the most hated characters in the anime, which is interesting when you consider the fascist undertones. This character is so, to me, deep in terms of like the ramifications. And on the other side, you have Candace Owens, well-known anti-black grifter sellout. And as soon as I got to the chapters with Gabi, years ago now, I immediately started thinking of Candace Owens. And I wanted to talk about how Gabi can teach us about internalized racism. And teach us about, although this isn't possible for Candace, let me be clear, can teach us about how to address anti-blackness within community, how to address and like engage with black folks, especially black young people, going back to even Childish Gambino, black young people whose response to anti-blackness that they've experienced is to feed into that anti-blackness. Turb came out with a video a little while ago that I thought was really good, where he kind of engages with what that experience is. So Turb, when you see this, bro, I'm gonna tell you a story a little bit. So Turb is from Canada somewhere. I don't remember. And Turb is a child of an immigrant. And Turb had the experience where he was one of very few black people in his community. You know who else had the experience? Candace Owens. And so what happens, and this goes back to that fly in the milk thing I talked about a while ago. And I want to be clear because people still didn't quite get this. I don't think that there's never a situation where black people should be around white people or that black children should go to white schools. I don't think that's the case. What I'm saying, and this is supported by research, is that when you put a black child in an all-white environment, especially when that all-white environment does not have people who are competent in teaching and nurturing and supporting children across race, when they are not woke, and even being woke, you can fuck up a lot of shit. Hell, it happens in black schools. To be perfectly honest, when you have that, those black children suffer. They suffer, if not due to direct racism, they suffer through being othered and ostracized just by the nature of being a minority. It's impossible not to have negative experiences when you are that much in a minority. And the same would be said if you were a white person in an all black community, a man in an all woman community, so on and so forth. So with young black people, when that happens, a coping mechanism that often occurs is they will develop anti-black, internally racist personas and ideologies that they use to deflect. They use that to maneuver that space. You hear the phrase, and tell me you've heard both of these motherfuckers say this in some form of fashion. I'm one of the good ones. Don't treat me like those the monsters on parody. Don't treat me like those other blacks that aren't respectable and don't know and refuse to pick themselves up by their bootstraps, so on and so forth. And this is universal. Asian Diaspora is a really good book I'm gonna bring up eventually. Well, no, because I don't want to give away some stuff, but this is a universal thing from a minority experience, and all people of color in America that are immersed in white environments like deal with this. So for those who don't know, let me talk a little bit about. Let me talk about Gabi real quick. Long story short, for anyone who hasn't seen Attack on Titan, Gabi is essentially a child soldier who is living in an occupied state it's the imagery is meant to make you think of Jewish people living in Nazi Germany. within that experience, she believes wholeheartedly that if she if she does all the right things as a person with monstrous blood, that she will atone for her monstrous blood and be accepted in the island of Paradis by Marleyans. And I want to do a quote from her real quick. She says, "Because I'm an Eldian born in this internment zone, people would spit at the sight of me walking around. I had a lot of awful experiences here, but that's exactly why I tried so hard." Right? And then I guess I'll read this other one. This is before and after. "Seems like you haven't admitted your sins. Have you already forgotten the brutal atrocities of the people of the island committed against this world? An Eldian can only start to the path of final atonement when they fully understand their sins." So, why am I yelling? Because I don't know how to talk on the mic. And I don't know, this is hurting my fucking voice. I probably should stop yelling. Y'all can still hear me. I be forgetting. I'm used to teaching like in front of a classroom. This is my teacher voice. What Gabi is doing is she's trying to overcompensate. She has been brought up in an environment where her like essential being, her identity has been demonized so thoroughly that she thinks the only way she can be better is to reject all the things that she's been born into. And she has that "I am one of the good ones" mentality. She was brainwashed. Thank you, Weeks Fire. She projects that on the other, she projects that on all of her other peers who are in her same experience. And then we come to Candace Owens. Candace Owens, people don't know her full story, was that flying the milk experience. Grew up, I think it was Pennsylvania, somewhere northeast, where she came from a working class family and went to an affluent all-white school. And things were so bad for her, which is the irony of what she's become. She was so bullied and harassed at her high school and then the high school did so little to protect her that they actually called in the NAACP. So as a teenager, because I know some people don't know this part of the deep lore of Candace Owens, because I found this out, I was like, holy shit. As a teenager, Candace Owens' family got the NAACP to sue her school, and they won this lawsuit for, not a whole lot of money, but they won a lawsuit. The NAACP came in on Candace Owens' behalf and won a lawsuit for her because she was experiencing racist harassment. And I don't even like the NAACP, to keep it a buck. I don't fuck with the NAACP. Not since, the 80s. But they held her down. So how did she get to where she is now? And then she goes on. Her story is she started with essentially a bread tube blog. She started a left tube blog. She was very liberal in the Gamergate years, and was just trying to get her bag. She kind of has shyster on her beforehand, if you read between the lines. So she starts like a bread tube leftist liberal blog, and she had this idea that sounds horrible, but she thought it was a good idea, that she was basically going to dox. She was going to have like a doxing Twitter, or like a doxing website for doxing, right-wing assholes. That was her plan. And when that was rejected, and she decided, well, the real money, the easy money, is being a Republican black grifter, because as you can see from Jesse Lee Owens, conservatives aren't very discerning for who they allow to for when black people come and speak for them. It's so funny. I was watching some right-wing person's videos, and they pointed out that all across the country in the last election cycle, there were black Republicans popping up everywhere and running in elections that had no chance of winning. But they would come up there and they would say, The real problem is the Democrats, and we need more black Republicans. Black people aren't a monolith, and just all the black Republican talking points, right? They would collect a lot of money in their campaigns, lose, and then just go somewhere. It was easy grift. There was a black woman, I think she was in Philadelphia or Baltimore, where she knew she wasn't going to win. It's a lot of them that do it. Because, it's not hard. Literally anyone can be a black Republican talking figurehead if you speak well. You know who was going to be a black Republican on Fox News in the future if he hadn't died? Kevin Samuels. I guarantee, and I'll prove it when that video comes out in a couple of months. We'll leave that there, though. So, yeah, a lot of, that's an easy grift for black people to make. You get out there, you say semi-racist things that Fox News people will watch, and you can get a bag. And that's why there's no redemption arc for Candace, because I don't think Candace believes most of the shit she says. She doesn't. Because she says the dumbest, most ridiculous shit. But she knows that she can collect the bag off of it. This is a video she dropped literally maybe a week after George Floyd was murdered. Literally a week after George Floyd was murdered. And the gist of her video is, it's bad what happened to George Floyd, but it's okay because he was a criminal. And she ends the video with, the real problem of black people is that we try to uphold people like George Floyd as heroes or some shit, or as martyrs. And it's a very typical, it's the typical, what about black on black crime line that conservatives give you. It doesn't matter the fact that you're still not allowed to kill criminals. The police are not allowed to kill criminals. If George Floyd had drugs in his system, but a dude standing on his neck for 10 minutes killed him, the drugs in the system don't matter. The cause of death is asphyxiation. So on and so forth. I don't really want to get into the weeds of that shit. He was no angel. Never mind all the other many incidents of unarmed black people being shot by police for no reason. I'll never forget Philando Castile. There's a dude that got shot in Walmart walking around, so on and so forth. All right, what about white on white crime? All crime is interracial, but y'all can get that from somewhere else. So what's the difference between these two? And this goes back to what I was saying about your boy Gambino. Gabi had an immersion experience. Gabi got outside of the Marleyan Empire. She got around her own people, and she got to experience her people through a actual, productive lens. Now, of course, I'm not saying move from the suburbs to, the SWATs or the west side of Chicago, but getting around your own people and being prepared for how difficult that might be. No, we don't know. So Candace cannot come back. Candace is not a fictional character. Candace needs to do a lot before, the same. Candace with that same energy that what's her name, Omarosa got, and all these other motherfuckers. When you get in and you see the experience of what it actually is, and when you have the opportunity to learn stuff, you can deconstruct that nonsense. I don't think she believes the stuff she says, KO. That's my point. I don't think she believes that shit at all. She knows it sells though. And when people people have charged her up about it, and she always flips the script. You know what I'm saying? It's complete nonsense. But the other thing that I want to get at with this is not just what happens to Candace Owens now. It's what to do with Candace Owens in her youth. What to do with the young Candace Owens. What to do with the children. Because a lot of y'all in the chat were like a Gabi or a Candace Owens at some point in time when you were younger. And it's important for black folks and also people who have issues with pick-me's, because there's pick-me gays, there's pick-me Asians, there's pick-me Latinos, etc. Understand that pick-me experience isn't an innate thing. Thank you. You can't cast them aside. Well, you can once they get to Candace Owens' space. But when they start up with that, it's really important for us to have functions for re-ingratiating those people with the culture and an experience they've been disabused from. When the Candace Owenses are 19, 20 and they get on Twitter and they say some dumb shit, avoid the pile on, avoid the ratio. Because we all know exactly where that comes from. What's there to the pick me and the simp? Isn't that the same thing? I don't know. I don't know what a simp is half the time, but a pick me is this. A pick me is this. A pick me is this. A pick me is this over here. When you have people from a disempowered position seek to separate themselves from the community they belong to and ingratiate themselves to in a community that has hierarchical or structural power over them by saying, you know, I'm one of the good ones. I don't have one of those ghetto names. You know, I don't listen to hip hop. I'm different. I don't, all the shit that Candace Owens says. You know, what Kanye's doing right now was very similar.
What do you say to people that say you turned your back on the culture or
exactly
black
100%? I have turned my back on the idea of victimization mentality.
Yeah, so we have to do a better job of engaging. Like, everybody don't have to, you know, be nice, right? But we have to do a better job of engaging those young people with that pick me experience with rehabilitation, because we know where that comes from. Because it doesn't come from a normal experience. It comes from what Gabi went through and what Candace went through. Because here's the other thing that draws them together. These are both victims of childhood trauma. You feel me? And so I wish somebody would have gotten to Candace earlier. I honestly don't think Candace, like I said, believes most of the shit she says. I think she's just a grifter. And by Gabi, by the end of the story, you see what happened. So there's more to that, you know. If this were a real essay, I'd have dive deeper into that. Thomas Sowell, same thing. Almost all of these black Republican folks, they have two different experiences. They either come from a white immersion experience where they were the only black person they knew, and they had to deal with that and develop anti-blackness because they felt ashamed, or they're from like true abject poverty and struggle, and they somehow made it out, and they think, well, if I made it out, everybody can make it out. You know what I'm saying? Is it possible to get grifters back? Do you want a grifter back though? That's the thing. That's the thing with Candace. It's like, so if Candace is really family, right? And Candace got off that bullshit, I'll be like, all right, you can come through, but you can never talk. You can never hold power in this community. Clarence Thomas, nah. Fuck. Ooh, y'all about to get me on record saying some shit I don't need to say in public. I'm gonna just say no.